Welcome to the Digital Imperative concurrent session here at Canada's Accredited Zoos and Aquariums Conference here in Whitehorse, Yukon, 2016. We have Megan Richardson, who is the director of the Virtual Museum of Canada. She's joining us from Ottawa, and right now she's in the process of redeveloping the Virtual Museum of Canada.
Yeah.
And she comes from a long history of education and programming with the National Gallery of Canada. Over here, we've got Ryan Dodge. Ryan Dodge is the digital engagement coordinator with the Royal Ontario Museum. And so he's doing content creation, campaign and community management, and building capacity. And I think we're going to hear a little bit more about that as we go on today. And Ryan just did a keynote for was this Alberta Museums Association last week. So very happy to have Ryan joining us, and he'll be our second presenter. And then sitting here with me is Megan McCarchuk from the Vancouver Aquarium, and she's a web content manager. And I think maybe we'll hear a little bit about the Otter Cam.
Maybe.
Maybe, okay.
Maybe a little bit about little reels on there.
I think Megan recently broke the internet in Vancouver with an Otter Cam.
Sorry.
And so really looking forward to hearing more about what she's doing, and really to bring it all back home to aquariums and the zoo world here. And then I'm your moderator for today. My name's Jake. I work at the Yukon Wildlife Preserve, and I'm an enthusiast when it comes to engaging in a digital world, and looking forward to learning from everybody here.
So hey everybody, it's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. At afternoon our time, morning still your time. So as Jake mentioned, I'm here in my capacity as director of the Virtual Museum of Canada. But it might be useful to have a little bit of information about me first. I've always been interested in museums and technology. The top pictures are me at the zoo at Santa's Village near Lake Placid, New York. And I'm not going to give you a date on that, but you can tell by the vintage photograph that it's a couple of decades ago. And then beside it is a snow sculpture that a team of us made in high school, which was showcasing the hot technology of 1984. There's a date for you, which was then a Sony Walkman. So the combination of zoos, museums, and technology goes right back to my childhood and teenage years. My background isn't technical particularly. I have a BA in art history and a master in museum studies with a specialization in museum education. And before I became the director of the Virtual Museum of Canada in 2015, just last year, I spent 20 plus years working in education at a number of art museums. So basically, I've spent my career thinking about the visitor experience, and as digital became more and more dominant, I've been thinking about that experience in physical spaces as well as online. To just speak to the bottom picture quickly, lots of my best thinking happens during my hour-long commute to work, which is on my bike in the summer, and my skates in the winter. So that's a picture of the frozen Rideau Canal at 6:30 with the sun just coming up as I was finishing my commute last winter. So we'll start by looking at zoo and aquarium content on the Virtual Museum of Canada. It just seemed like a logical place to start. Then talk a bit about differences as well as similarities between zoos and aquariums and other types of museums. Look at a couple of recent projects in the wider digital cultural field that could be considered emblematic for where the world is going. And finally, talk about a couple of key things that people expect of their digital experiences, and a few things that museum-type institutions should keep in mind when they continue on their own digital journeys. So in a nutshell, the Virtual Museum of Canada is a two-stream investment program, and it's also a website that supports Canadian museums and heritage organizations, and of course zoos and aquariums are part of that umbrella term, in developing and sharing, as well as engaging people, obviously, with their content and their stories and their experiences, all in the online world. So we fund two different kinds of projects. Virtual exhibits projects can receive investment of up to $250,000. and Community Memories projects, which we're about to change to a new name called Community Stories, subtle distinction, but important for us. Those projects can receive up to $10,000. And then all the projects that we invest in are added to the VMC website, which is virtualmuseum.ca. So to prepare for this talk, I searched the terms zoo and aquarium on our website and came up with some interesting stuff. We have a new Google custom search that we're about to roll out on the website in a few weeks. So it let me go deep into the archives of the site. And I should say, full disclosure, the Virtual Museum of Canada has been around since 2001. So some of the content on the site is quite old, and we're aware of that, and we're working on it. That's part of the change that we're working on. So I did find this virtual exhibit by the Vancouver Aquarium. That's a little nod to Megan, called Conservation in Action. And then there was this one by the Musée de la Nature et des Sciences de Sherbrooke, which mentions the Magnetic Hill Zoo there underneath the bear. We also had the Zoo de Granby produced this virtual exhibit in 2010. And I found mention of one by the Calgary Zoo called Conservation Source, which is no longer, I don't think, available online. And a second, much older one by the Vancouver Aquarium called Salmon Tales, A Natural Living Heritage. So that predates a lot of us, I think. And then there were several smaller local history exhibits, like one from the Bowmanville Museum that included this postcard from their local zoo. And then there was also one by the Lambton Heritage Museum with this picture taken at the Pine Ridge Zoo. And then there was this exhibit by the North American Carnival Museum and Archives, which included an ad for the Rendezvous Park Zoo. So, you know, as I said, kind of a weird and wonderful mix of things on the Virtual Museum of Canada site. These were all great stories, but to me there seemed to be a bit of a gap, which was exciting. And, you know, prepping for this talk and meeting all of you and hearing your ideas, it seemed to me that Canada's zoos and aquariums are underrepresented, at least in the Virtual Museum of Canada, and I wondered why. And it also made me think that there was room for more of them to leverage this opportunity to connect with online audiences. So that could be a shameless plug or a warm invitation to submit proposals for investment. So this led me to ponder, you know, a big question, which is what makes zoos and aquariums different from all other cultural attractions like museums? And we can also talk about similarities. And I wondered, is the key difference the attracting and holding power of live exhibits? Does connection there in those types of attractions depend on face-to-face interaction? Does digital even have a role to play when the collections on display are living, breathing, eating, and playing creatures? And in what ways are zoos and aquariums similar to museums? So, you know, I think we can probably get back to some of those big questions at the end, but this was some of what I was thinking as I was preparing the talk. I'm a lifelong lover of museums of all kinds, but I'm an expert in the visitor experience in art museums in particular. So I went back to the research of Jan Packer, Nigel Bond, and Roy Ballantyne, who in 2010 in Australia, they're based in Australia, but they looked at the visitor experience at 5 museums in London, 5 different kinds of museums, and they included the London Zoo. The researchers wanted to identify qualities of visitor experiences at cultural attractions like museums, zoos, and aquariums and botanic gardens, so they could better understand the unique personalities of each type of attraction and the differences among them. They found that visitors to the London Zoo primarily experienced a sense of discovery and curiosity, followed by a sense of beauty and sensory engagement with the environment, which was then followed by a sense of enjoyment and feeling cheerful. The zoo scored higher than the other sites in emotional and environmental concern, in physical activity and togetherness. And the most frequently selected item in the list of phrases to describe the experience was, I experienced a sense of enjoyment. So that was the zoo that they looked at. By contrast, visitors to Tate Britain, which is an art museum, reported having their imaginations engaged and feeling reflective. They also reported feeling a sense of beauty and having their senses engaged. And they reported feeling attentive and mentally engaged. they most often describe the experience as engaging them mentally. So this certainly suggested that there were some key differences between zoos and other cultural attractions. And, you know, maybe the similarities were more obvious and rooted in a common purpose of collecting and preserving and interpreting and presenting collections. And I know that when Megan speaks later on, she'll have lots to say about, yes, indeed, zoos can do wonderful things in the digital sphere. So I'll leave that to her to sort of expand on all of that. So I'd like to circle back to these differences and similarities during the Q&A if there's time, but in the interest of keeping to time, I'll carry on with the Packer and using the Packer and Valentine research as a jumping off point for discussing a couple of recent projects in the wider digital cultural field. It's worth bearing in mind that digital solutions developed for the zoo and aquarium world should take into account the differences and similarities that I've just touched on briefly. So two recent projects that I think are interesting and important for this discussion. The first project took place this past summer in London, England, and was called The Lost Palace by Historic Royal Palaces. It was an interactive experience that used hacked Android phones, haptic technology, and an RFID reader to allow visitors to travel back in time to when Whitehall Palace was still standing. So Whitehall Palace isn't there anymore, but this interactive experience sort of recreated its presence and allowed people to access stories about it. Two things struck me about this project, and you know, full disclosure, I didn't experience the Lost Palace myself. I was through London this summer on a flight through Heathrow, but didn't manage to get into the city to try the project. But just from the reading that I've done about it, there were two things that really struck me that made this project special. The development process was interesting and the user experience as well. So Historic Royal Palaces launched a competition last year for what they call artists and creatives and technologists to create an immersive storytelling experience. So they put a call out and 90 proposals came in. There were 100 responses, but 90 proposals came in. And they winnowed those down to 5 proposals and gave each of the teams £10,000 to develop their idea further into a prototype. Then they looked at those 5 prototypes and picked 2 to work together to form the Lost Palace experience. This kind of struck me as a great way to encourage innovation and collaboration and ultimately get a stronger final product. So the development process, I think, is pretty interesting. And then in terms of the user experience, visitors held a wooden wedge which contained the hacked phone. The block didn't have a screen. It just had headphones through which they received information on interacting with the world around them. And visitors triggered the content by holding the block near physical structures that they erected around London as part of this project. At times, the block pulsed and vibrated like a game controller, and there was no screen to distract visitors from what they were supposed to be looking at, listening to, feeling, or sharing with their family and friends. And this to me seemed like an elegant solution to something lots of museums complain about and are struggling with, which is the all-consuming screen. As you know, as I've mentioned, I'm not a lifelong zoo professional, but I have visited many zoos in my life, and it struck me that you have these wonderful creatures. You're very content rich. Zoos and aquariums, excuse me. I should mention both. So to have a screen as part of the visitor experience would probably be, you know, at times distracting from the animals and marine life that you're supposed to be engaging with. So that was the reason for choosing that project. The second project was a virtual reality experience that closed recently at La Grande Bibliothèque in Montreal. And this one I did experience live, and it stayed with me. After a moody audio introduction in a room that was staged to look like the interior of an old library on a rainy night, there was rain that splashed against the windows and the light changed and the walls were lined with books and you sat on wooden benches. You opened up the bench and took out your headset and moved into the next room, which was filled with library furnishings and life-size trees. And the leaves of the trees were pages from books, which was pretty beautiful. And you strapped on your VR headset and you were transported while you were seated to 10 of the most famous libraries in the history of civilization. So I went with my family, and we had quite different experiences of the VR. It was immersive, it was intuitive, it was extremely beautiful. There was some pixelation in some of the images, so I don't think the technology was, absolutely perfect yet, but the experience was really immersive, and it did stay with me. So that's another one that I wanted to share with you. Partly because it's generally agreed among industry insiders and normal people that virtual reality is here to stay. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg paid $2 million to buy Oculus VR, which includes the Oculus Rift headset. And the cover of the October 2015 issue of Vanity Fair magazine has a really great article all about that, that story. And the headset is being released next month, and you can pre-order it at Best Buy for $849.99. There's also Google Cardboard, which you can assemble yourself and use with a smartphone. And Ryan, may want to share his experiences with Google Cardboard at the ROM when he's speaking. So VR, in a nutshell, is a powerful way of taking people to places that either don't exist or are far away or are hard for them to access, or, maybe a place that they can't get to just yet. And museums, I think, more and more are realizing that it can be a tool for them to interpret and share their collections more widely. Now I'm going to attempt to play this video. So really, VR doesn't stop here. The very secretive mixed reality startup called Magic Leap is working on something that's supposed to blow everybody's minds. And as zoo and aquarium people, I thought you'd appreciate their promotional video, with the caveat that it's not clear from the video how this could possibly work without some sort of device on your head or over your eyes, but we'll have to wait and see what Magic Leap comes up with. I know, right? It's really heady stuff. I'll just stop it from playing there with the whale emerging once again from the gymnasium floor. Again, there's lots written about this trailer video. It's had many, many, many views online, and we'll have to wait and see what Magic Leap releases when it's ready. But suffice to say, there are some exciting new directions that this technology is exploring. So after those examples to inspire you, let's look at a couple of things that people typically expect of their digital experiences and how museums are responding. People want access, not only in the critical sense of websites and digital products being accessible for people with disabilities, but in the broader sense of having access to the content, the communications, and the experiences that they want, when they want the access, and how they want the access. That is, in the format and on the platforms that they want them on. This is the Ask app at the Brooklyn Museum of Art, where you can talk about art by text message with a staffer on call. So you're in the museum visiting, you have a question, you text it, and there's someone in the call center or in the text center who replies and engages in a conversation with you. So that's pretty responsive and amazing. People also want to participate. Here's a little nod to Ryan in the slide on the right. They want opportunities to do things, make things, say things, or share something. The picture on the left is from the Van Gogh Yourself website, which was launched by Europeana Creative in 2014, where people recreate works of art and then submit them. And the one on the right is from the photo feed on the Royal Ontario Museum's homepage, showing visitors engaging with the Chihuly exhibition as well as each other. With social media, there's also the expectation that the community will be managed responsively, that someone will engage with you, whether it's answering a question, liking a post, retweeting a tweet, or doing something else. And I'll leave Ryan to speak more about that. And I'm sure Megan will have lots to add there as well. So if people want access and participation, how are museums responding? Well, they're responding in lots of different ways, but there are three that stand out for me. There's an increasing focus on collaboration, which is getting people and organizations to work together. There are collaborations within organizations that are really important and across networks of partners as well. because, you know, ultimately pooled resources and expertise result in a better product, which is better for visitors. The Digital Public Library of America is kind of a meta example because it relies on a vast partner network of libraries, archives, and museums to make their collections available on the DPLA platform. So that's a kind of a national example of collaboration. Analytics, or figuring out what success looks like and how to measure it, are also increasingly important because they help to demonstrate impact or value. And anyone who's ever dealt with funders knows how useful this is. So that's the Google Analytics page for the Virtual Museum of Canada as of last week. And it's something that we look at often and talk about to see how things are going. And finally, capacity is an important one, ensuring that museum staff have the knowledge and experience they need to think and work in new ways. Conversations are happening internationally about training the current and next generation of museum workers so they're equipped to meet the challenges and opportunities that digital presents. These are really big conversations, but you can start much smaller. Carolyn Royston at the Imperial War Museum launched a computer club a few years ago to develop digital awareness and skills across the museum. Carolyn is currently at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston, but when she was at the IWM, she launched Computer Club, which was very popular and successful. The informal monthly lunchtime sessions were open to everyone, and they introduced staff to new digital things in a practical, hands-on way and let them try things they wouldn't normally get to do in their job. It also helped, you know, to get them excited about digital. So to wrap up, digital has really, as we, you know, it seems almost too obvious to say, but I will, it's irrevocably changed the way that we live and we play and we learn. Museums are sometimes leading the change or sometimes responding to the change, and particularly to people's changing expectations. And there's some great examples out there to draw inspiration from. But don't forget what makes you unique and special. And remember that you can always start small and see how things go. So I don't know if you want to take questions now, Jake, or if you just want to roll into the next presentation, but there are my...
So Megan touched on a few things that I'm going to talk about quickly. I think I'm just going to spend about 10 minutes here and tell you a little bit about how we do social media and web at the ROM. Just to give you a bit of background, I've been at the ROM for about 10 years. I'm also not a tech person. I have a history degree and a museum studies master's, and I really come at this this web and digital stuff from a storytelling aspect and a community management aspect. To me, that's the most valuable things about engaging in digital at a museum, is being able to tell stories to more people and to engage more people in your museum, in your local area, and around the world. So I'm showing you here, you can Google ROM social media and find our objectives and also all of the accounts that, or most of the accounts that we manage. And really, I just wanted to put out there that our objectives at the ROM for Social are to build connections with our community by fostering direct, timely, and responsive dialogue. And we also want to enhance the museum's public profile by increasing awareness and understanding of the ROM as a resource, of expertise and in our research and collection areas, and talk about our exhibitions and programs and that sort of thing. Ticket sales, memberships, that sort of stuff comes if you're doing, in my belief, doing these two things right. Social is about being social. It's about having a two-way conversation with your audience and with your visitors. And if you're doing those things right, then they become lifelong advocates for your institution. Now, a lot of you will probably say, well, that's pretty difficult to do. We all have limited resources, and not everyone can do this as their full-time job. A lot of smaller places, one person does 5 different things. But I'm here to tell you that it's not just one person's job at the institution to be engaged with social and to communicate what's happening at your institution. It's every single person's job in the institution. It should be everyone's responsibility to communicate what's happening behind the scenes, what's happening on a daily basis in the institution, because that activity builds awareness for your institution as a whole, and it leads people to your front door. So you know, like you're all in the same boat. Why should half of you row and half of you hang back and chill? Like it just doesn't make sense. So I'm showing this slide here. You guys can Google leveraging the power of social media museums, and it should pop up. But this is an article that I wrote for the Museum ID people. It's also, they put it in a book, but you can just get it for free on their website. And this is where I've outlined how we've gone about increasing our digital capacity at the ROM. I started in my role full-time doing social 4 years ago, and now we have over 100 staff that are tweeting from personal accounts about their day-to-day at the museum. I don't know any other museum in the world that has that many active staff on social media, but I'm sure there are more and more every day. So I'm just going to give you the Coles notes here, and this is the most famous chef I could think of, but I'm sure there's more out there. This is how you go about it. It's a bit like being a chef. There's lots of ingredients, but the first one is strategy. And like anything we do across the organization, we need to have a plan. We can't just go all crazy and start creating accounts with no strategy. What I've found is best is if you nail down a SMART plan, which SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And get that approved by whoever approves things in your organization, and then work from there. Next thing you really need to do is you need to provide resources for your staff. You can't just expect them to just jump in the deep end and get at it. We've built out a couple of guideline documents for staff to fall back on, and we encourage them to get their feet wet on their personal accounts first. The lines are extremely blurred between your personal and professional presence online. So we provide staff with these guidelines to give them a resource so that they can be effective and efficient communicators online. We attempt to take the mystery around social out of the equation so their staff can focus on the things that really matter, like creating good content and fitting time for social into their workflow. Megan touched on this, but evidence. You need to know how to read analytics. You need to know your numbers and be able to articulate them to the staff. Giving them concrete evidence as to why they're increasing their activity on social is not only a benefit to them, but also the institution and the community. If they can see that their impact, or that the work they're doing actually has impact, then it'll be that much easier to convince them to keep going. Training, I mean, I touched on this earlier, but having a social media competent staff means lots of training. Schedule regular training sessions, leave most of the time for questions. We schedule about an hour. We do a monthly session. We schedule an hour, but we only talk for about 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes 15. And we only talk about one specific thing, like Instagram stories or how to tag accounts in a tweet. We leave the other 50 minutes for discussion and Q&A, and we end up covering more ground, but it's led by our staff. So it becomes less like a lecture or a workshop, and becomes more like a chat. Our staff feel ownership over the meeting and feel like they are comfortable to ask whatever questions they want. From there, we do more training. I get even more questions that people aren't really comfortable asking in front of a group, so I often go and sit down with smaller groups or even one-on-one in people's office. If you take the time to provide people with the knowledge that they need, then they'll be more likely to take it and run with it in their day-to-day. And the last thing, and this is really, really hard for people in museums, it's really difficult, but after you've done all of these things, you've given people the strategy, the guidelines, they know what impact they can have by doing this work, and they have the training and the education, you're going to have to trust them at some point. And for us, a lot of our staff are world-renowned academics. They're trusted to provide new knowledge. They're trusted to speak on behalf of the organization at lectures and all around the world. Why can't we trust them to tweet? It just doesn't add up. So you just have to give that leap of faith. But you've done all your work, so it should make sense. I can't emphasize the lack of, or the amount of training that's needed for this kind of activity. Here's a shot of us. We were out in the galleries when Pokemon Go came out, and everyone was like, "What, Ryan? What do we do? I don't know how to do. How are we going to do this?" So we decided to get everyone out on the floor, and we actually did a tour around and found all the Pokemon in the building and showed people how that functioned. And here's me with a very high-tech podium in one of our classrooms. And then, like Carolyn at the IWM, we actually have loyalty cards on our staff badges that I made, and I give people a sticker every time they come to one of our meetings. And this, you know, it becomes like, you know, when you see people with them around, they're like, oh, well, I have 6 stickers and you only have 4, and that sort of thing. We used to do the buttons when people did a really good they wrote a really good blog or did a really good post or something. But now we have the loyalty cards. Taking time to teach your staff is really, really valuable going forward, especially as digital becomes more integrated with everything that we do. And the reason why it's really important is because once you have all your staff trained, then you can do really cool things like integrating your online presence with your physical presence. So I don't know how hard this is to see where you are, but this is the level 2 and level 3 from our printed floor plan. And you can see in the orange and the green side of the map, those are Twitter handles of staff that are responsible for the galleries on those levels. So the idea is that you're standing in the gallery of dinosaurs and you want to know more about the dinosaur, you can look on the side here, you can find the curator that's in charge of that gallery, and you can tweet at him. And he'll answer you back, and you can have a conversation about that dinosaur. We've had these in our floor plan since 2003, and I'm pretty sure we're the only museum in the world that has this level of integration, although, like I said earlier, more and more museums are going in this direction. There's only so much you can put on the label, you know, but doing this, you give people access to your specialists all year round. Every day for us is Ask a Curator Day at the museum. And our digital presence, our digital engagement presence delivers on our overall mission at the museum, which is to connect people to their world and to each other every single day. Further to this, we've also integrated social within a lot of our exhibits. On the right-hand side, you can see just before you even get into the exhibit, you can see a sign that says photography encouraged and the hashtag for that exhibit. And last summer, we had a Pompeii exhibit that had a lot of activations within the exhibit. You can see the little camera icon above the guy's head there in the middle. All that said was snap a pic, share it, and then the hashtag. We had over 5,500 photos shared throughout the run of this exhibit. And it's so valuable because these are people saying that they're having a great time at our exhibit. It's not us saying that, it's actually our visitors. So it means that much more in this day and age. And then Megan showed a little bit, but we actually, we take advantage of these photos. We aggregate them. We use a service that brings them in, and we post them on our website so people can see the experience that they're going to have before they get there. We don't need to market people anymore. People do it for us. People have a content creation device in their pockets these days. So it's up to us to take advantage of that and provide people the opportunity to share their experience and for them to tell their friends and their networks what a fun and educational and exciting place it is to visit. So I think that's all I really wanted to cover. I think just how important it is to get your staff on digital, how to teach them how to go about it, and then the cool things you can do after that. Very nice.
Thanks very much, Ryan. And now we're going to bring it back home to Zoos and Aquariums with Megan.
My name is Megan, and I work in the content department at the Vancouver Aquarium. And I've had a chance to chat with a lot of the delegates here already a little bit and introduce myself and talk a little bit about what I do. But for those of you that are viewing online, and for those of you who I haven't had a chance to talk with yet, I do work in the content department, and we are the story producing hub of our organization. So we really focus on finding those great stories and sharing them with our visitors, and that goes out to all platforms. You know, we take care of messaging for exhibit graphics, our video screens that are physically within the facility, and then it extends online with our websites, our photos, videos, social media that are content pieces. So my portfolio within that department is overseeing website development, mobile app development, and then content for social media platforms that we see as an engagement platform and a content platform. And I've been at the aquarium for 14 years now, so I've really seen it through like every version of our website, started our social channels, and I'll speak to this a little bit later, but I don't think that there's any big secret to creating the content. Like, we all are very lucky to work in this industry and have access to that content. It's putting the right strategy in place, and it's coming back to story and how we effectively do that. So move forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about why the aquarium values digital engagement, and then a little bit about our strategy, our production methods, and then some sort of recent examples of what we've been doing to engage with the visitors online. So our motivation behind this, like, why do we do this? Each year we get, I think it's about 1.1 million people through our gates, and that's incredible. That's a great touch point, but we also recognize that we can reach many, many more people online, millions more people. It really helps us share our message with a much broader audience. We have a goal to reach 100 million people and have them engage with ocean conservation by the year 2020. And we're not going to do that by just getting visitors through the gate of our actual aquarium. We need to talk to people out in the real world, and online is a great way to access that. So again, we all know this, none of us are lacking in the content. But what do we do with this? Because this makes our jobs really easy, but it also makes it really, really hard. So we have a content strategy in place that helps us manage all of this. This is what our department looks like. And we operate kind of like an aquarium newsroom. So we look at what's happening in terms of breaking stories within the organization, popular trends, features, quirky, interesting items, and what the value is to our various audiences. So, you know, first is the radar aspect. We collect the stories from across the organization and beyond, and that includes our field research, our conservation work. We evaluate the storytelling methods and digital tools and make sure that we are effectively sharing those. And then we go into production. And this speaks a lot to the video work that we do, but we gather all this content, we refine our production techniques, and, you know, make sure that it all has a good and strong voice. We curate that, work on an editorial plan based on analytics. So again, two speakers before me spoke a lot about evaluation, like taking a look at what you're putting out there and how effective it is. And then asset management. So how do we manage all of this effectively? How do we access this? You know, you have all these images in these videos, and then what do you do with it? Where do you store it? So this is a little overview of some of our content platforms and touch points, but you know, it really extends to all these different access points. So our main website sort of acts as a portal, central platform. Most of our visitors will find our website, and from here they can jump off to our social channels, they can go on to our other programs, dive a little bit deeper. They can access webcams. So this is a fun one. It's the most accessed page on our website is our cameras, and recently we launched this one, which is the baby Otter webcam, which quickly broke our streaming capacity. It was very, very popular, and that's great. I mean, people are coming here, they're seeing what we're doing in terms of rescue and rehabilitation, they're getting that story. At the bottom of this page, there's more information, a jumping off point for them to access that a little bit deeper. And we also run a blog, and so this is sort of a magazine style one where we use rich images to share our messages and engage with people. And then social media. So this really speaks to getting our message out there to the broader audience for people that aren't just accessing our website, but are, you know, accessing our social channels. You know, Facebook is a great one, of course. We have our main one, and we have specific ones for our different conservation programs, and that's just because they have a little bit of a different audience sometimes. And obviously, this is an easy win. So you can use your cute factor to really engage with people. This was a really simple post that we put up. It was just an image with talking about, we're going to be doing Sea Otter Awareness Week, which was just this past week. And people started just posting pictures of otters, you know, engaging with this, like sharing their memories, like wanting to visit. And Facebook Live is another one that everybody should be looking at, because we've known for a while that the Facebook algorithm, when you post a video, it's a little higher weighted, more people will access it in their news feed. Facebook Live has an even larger reach, so you're already reaching those people, and it's a behind the scenes look, it's the next best thing to being there. We put this little video out, I think it was 4 days ago, and it's already reached over 2 million people. So that's the power of, you know, going and engaging with the digital audience. Like, there's a lot of justification for time. This one took a few minutes to write some text. Go out there with your iPhone, go into live mode, 2 million people 4 days later have seen this video. And they know that we do rescue and rehabilitation work, which isn't obvious to everybody. A lot of people know, you know, Vancouver Aquarium, they know the brand. Not everybody knows about all the rescue and rehabilitation work, so this is just a huge touch point. And of course, we have our other platforms. So Instagram is a great one where we can showcase really beautiful images. And recently with the stories aspect of Instagram, you can go live as well on there and share sort of a behind the scenes look. Yeah, and then in terms of looking at Instagram, it's a nice one because it has really good analytics tools. So you can look at who's seeing your posts, what the engagement rate is, and produce more content like that. And then Twitter is a great one too because it's short. Everybody knows that. You know, the ability to add in cute GIFs. Everyone loves the otters this week. Yeah. And then YouTube, we do a lot with video at the aquarium. The YouTube channel has all of our sort of acts as an archive for a lot of our videos. So we've got, you know, sort of like mini documentaries on there. We have short clips that are, you know, cute and fun. And then we also live stream our public programs. So it acts as like a overall sort of library for all the videos that we produce. We do upload a lot of videos natively to Facebook because with the algorithm, it'll reach more people that way. But we put a copy up on YouTube too for our subscribers and to act as that central library. So this is our most viewed video on our YouTube channel. And it's just a hagfish, and one of our aquarists is demonstrating the hagfish slime. And it's reached 1 million people. Like, people love kind of something that's odd, unexpected, maybe a little gross, almost as much as they love cute baby otters. So, you know, it's finding that story and how do you share that message and how do you captivate that audience? You know, but then what does it look like when you're trying to share a message that's not funny, cute, or weird? You know, how do you effectively talk about climate change in 60 seconds? We've leveraged some motion graphics here to kind of do a little bit of a snapshot, 60-second snapshot. Hopefully you can hear me over the audio, but the point of this video was in 60 seconds to give people a really graphically rich, engaging piece that they keep watching, and it's short. A lot of this is about, it's not about producing a 1-hour documentary that talks about the work and why you should care about climate change. It's putting it in a thing that somebody with a short attention span, people that are watching it on their phone, get this message and want to act on it. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we stream all of our public programs. We do charge for our public programs, but if people want to watch online, they can do that for free. So it's great for those who can't make it down or who may be watching from somewhere else. This is a little bit about Snapchat, which is another easy one that you can just go out with your phone. It's an easy way to leverage the cute again, and that's such a small a youth demographic. It's a great way to access the millennials. So yeah, so that's about it. That's a brief high-level overview of sort of the stuff that we're doing, and more recently some of the quick, easy wins. But I really truly feel that it just comes back to story, creating that story and sharing it with your audience, studying and measuring your engagement levels, and then refining your posts based on those analytics, and creating a balanced approach to the content that you share. So, every post should be aimed at building your audience, and you're going to do those ones where you're sharing like super cute, funny, and gross things, but that helps you build your audience. So then when it's time to talk about climate change, it's time to talk about some of those bigger things, you have that audience there.
Thank you so much for those presentations. And I'm just going to see if we've got any questions coming from our audience. So the question was, all of you talked about assessing your effectiveness of your digital systems, and so wondering, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can start and just tell you how we do it. There's a lot of free analytics tools for measuring digital engagement. So for your website, there's Google Analytics is free, and you can really dive in deep and look at what people are accessing on your site. how long they're spending, what they're doing, where they're going to next, the path of flow through your site. And that's incredibly valuable. And on social as well, there's like most of the platforms have insights built into them. So for instance, on Facebook, you can see your reach, you can see which posts are performing the best. And then, you know, a lot of people talk about number of followers and number of impressions and that kind of stuff. And to me, that's not the most valuable part. The invaluable part is the engagement level. So which posts are people liking? Which ones are they sharing? Which ones are they commenting on? Like that post of, you know, sea otter awareness and people are piling in with photos of their own otters. That's engagement. You know, it's people are really accessing that. Again, with Instagram, if you roll your Instagram account over to a business account, it opens up the analytics. You know, Twitter, again, all have their own stats. So you can go in for free and do that. You can also pay. I use a software called Dash This, which is, it's not very expensive, but you can put all of your analytics linked into it, and it'll create a dashboard that just displays everything across all the platforms in one place. And you can just look monthly and see what it's at. It's called Dash This, and I can send that out after as well. And
we'll put a link in with the video when it goes up. Yeah.
I just wanted to just respond to that question quickly. For us, well, I mean, when you're talking about measurement, it all comes back to your objectives and what you're trying to do. If engagement is your objective, and then that's what you measure and that's what you value. If you're trying to drive people to buy tickets for a program or something like that, then you can, like Megan said, you can measure all that. I know myself at the ROM, we drive 6% of ticket sales. So, but that's not our objective. Our objective is engagement. So that's what we value. That's what we measure. There's a thing called engagement rate that you can get. That it's basically it's an equation of how many people click, like, comment, and share on your post versus how many people it reaches. And engagement rates vary across platforms. On Twitter, it's like 1 to 6% or something like that, and then on Facebook, it's a little higher, that range, which you want to strive for. So really, I mean, I mentioned a SMART plan in my little section, a specific, measurable, attainable. That's the thing. So if you're looking for your return on investment, it really just all comes back to your objectives and what you're trying to do.
And for the Virtual Museum of Canada, we, because we're an investment program, we're not a museum with its own sort of programs and projects to evaluate. But for the actual performance of our website, we have Google Analytics. We've done online surveys that people can opt in to answer, entrance and exit surveys to tell us about their experience on the website. We've also linked up with a group in the United Kingdom called Let's Get Real, which is run by a group called Culture 24, and you can, for a fairly modest sum, it's a couple $1,000, sign up with them to do a deep action research project. And one of their areas of focus in the past has been measuring online success. So even if you don't sign up to work with them, I would encourage you to Google the Let's Get Real series of reports from they're in their 5th round right now of research projects. So the first 4 are available free online, and you can see who participated and what their projects were. Each case study, it's about 24 UK museums signed up each time, and the Virtual Museum of Canada participated in their first North American cohort last year. So those are really good reports. We're also doing focus groups right now. We're working our way to a few provincial museum associations this fall to talk to museum practitioners about the Virtual Museum of Canada and what their experiences have been with it, and to validate some of the ideas of, for the directions that we're thinking of taking the program. But within the projects that we invest in, we encourage the museums that we work with to build evaluation into their proposals and into the development of their project. And we encourage them to think about things like formative evaluation, so community consultation and mock-ups and testing and things, while they're developing whatever the product is, if it's a virtual exhibit or a virtual tour or something like that. And then we have Google Analytics, and they are encouraged to sort of set that up on their project once it's launched. And then there's always, we have social media channels for the Virtual Museum of Canada as well. So we look at, how the Facebook and Twitter channels are doing. So that's, broadly how we deal with evaluation. And as Ryan said, objectives kind of are the starting point for everything.
The question here is, with Megan's target of reaching 100 million people by 2020, are we looking at, say, followers or individual visits?
Yeah, it's actually, that's the number of people that we want to have globally involved and engaged with ocean conservation. So that's not an impressions number or a reach number. That's how many people we want to be out there and being ocean ambassadors for us and engaging in that kind of ocean conservation. So that's a real tangible people number. So we use, engaging with them digitally and in digital engagement as a way to reach them, to get them involved in our direct action programs and to get them involved in conservation work. And it's a broader organizational goal.
And the way you would apply, say, your digital reach, you'd be deciding at some point, okay, does a follower count, or I guess.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully these are people who are actually involved with like conservation programs and actively involved with,
Any other questions from the audience?
If I can jump in there just quickly, guys, and talk about this little snippet of presentation that I did was part of the keynote that I gave last week, and the title of that keynote was "Digital Visitors Are Visitors Too." And the thing that people don't realize in museums, they don't value digital visitation as much as they value physical visitation, because there's money attached to physical visitation. But the fact is, you can reach way more people online than you can that'll ever visit you. But they're just as important because they have the potential to increase awareness about your organization online, and they're selling your organization for you. We're pretty close to the Vancouver Aquarium. We get about 1 million visitors per year, but we get almost 3 million visits on our website. We reach billions of people on our social media channels every year. That reach, those digital visitors are valuable because they're sharing everything that we're doing at the organization. If we didn't have that many people to share what we were doing online, then I mean, how would people find out about us? There's my nephew. How it's the world we live in. Everyone is connected. Everyone has a digital life and a physical life, and they're so integrated these days that we need to be present online to continue to have physical visitation at our locations.
So, serious question. As a small organization, obviously capacity is a challenge, and she was just saying that she really appreciated that you talked a lot about training, and was wondering, are there resources out there, like where would be a good place to start when it comes to getting started with this, with digital engagement?
I mean, I just usually Google stuff. I don't think there's no really one go-to place. I pull from a lot of areas, but also I learn by doing. So whenever a new platform comes out, whenever a new feature like Instagram stories, I just take a little bit of time in my day and learn how to use it, and then I start thinking about our objectives and how that new feature or that new platform can deliver on our objectives. And if it doesn't, I don't bother with it. But if it can, then I take the time to build out some more training and just a quick little slide deck or something that I can share with the rest of my staff. So really, I mean, there's tons of free resources all over the internet. If you want to, like Hootsuite does really good blog posts about whenever a new platform comes out. They usually have a couple of videos in there. Sprout Social does the same sort of stuff. Buffer as well. Some of these you'll have to sign up with your email address, but you can just give them a junk email that all their marketing stuff goes to if you want, if you don't have the money to sign up for those resources. But Hootsuite stuff is usually pretty free. And then if you look, they have a Hootsuite University that I think you can sign up for relatively cheap. that can build your capacity yourself, and then you can further go and teach the rest of your organization. But for us at the ROM, it's been really sort of grassroots. We don't have any resources for this, so it's all just spending my time learning how to use the platform, how to leverage it, and then teaching everyone else. So, I guess it was 2003, a colleague in the States and I started a Facebook group. It's called International Museum Social Media Managers. And there's about 1,200 of us on there now from all over the world. And all the big campaigns like Museum Week and Ask Curator Day and all that kind of stuff kind of gets planned and updated on that group, and we talk about issues, we vent a little bit, but we also, we collaborate and we ask each other questions if people are having problems with something. Lots of people jump on and help people out, so it's been a great group. I'm really glad groups like that sometimes die really quickly, but the people that are in the group have been great to keep it going and keep the conversation going. You can just tweet and say, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do a certain thing, and use a hashtag like social media, or use social is a hashtag that gets used quite a bit for museum social media people. So you can just tweet out a question there, and people will give you a hand.
That I'll pose to our panelists here is in your minds, what are the easiest wins? People go out back to their institutions after this conference. Where are the easiest wins going to be?
Cute animals. The Toronto Zoo. I mean, every time they post like a baby animal, I'm like, oh, come on. Like, we don't have any baby animals at the museum. Like, that is the biggest thing. People love cute animals. I mean, every time they have a baby polar bear or if they had a baby rhino, I mean, it just killed the internet. Everyone was talking about this baby rhino. Also, I wouldn't worry about doing a Hollywood production. We do Facebook Live as well, but we don't mind throwing out a video that was done on an iPhone. We did one where one of our technicians had a leech on their finger, and they let the leech basically have dinner on their finger it only lasted about 30 seconds. It was really gross. And she explained, that it looked like it was sweating, and that was the stuff that was coming out of her blood that the leech didn't digest, and it was oozing out of its skin. And it reached 3 million people, and it's just a 20-second video shot on an iPhone. So, it doesn't need to be a Hollywood production. It can be quick and dirty. But yeah, leverage. You guys have animals. I mean, people love animals.
Just gonna jump over to Megan here. We were chatting about this.
Yeah, we were just having this discussion earlier. Like, obviously, we're very lucky at Vancouver Aquarium that we have the content department, and we employ like a videographer and an editor and a motion graphics artist. Many of you are not going to have that kind of resources, but that doesn't mean that you cannot use video. We do a lot as well that's shot on iPhones, and we actually, we have some of our marine mammal trainers. They just take their iPhones in, and they're, because they know these animals the best, and they know when they're going to be cute and funny and do interesting behaviors. Shoot it on their iPhone. They text it over to me, and we can put it up. So this week for Sea Otter Awareness Week, there was obviously a lot with the baby otter and that, but we also posted some videos that one of our trainers just shot on our iPhone, and iPhones these days have a great camera. If you have the right lighting, the videos are fine. So share those. I mean, everybody has a smartphone. You just empower your employees to do that, and give them the authorization to do that. Allow them to take videos with their phone and share it. I find at a lot of these organizations, there's rules about what you can take photos of, what you can share on social. If they're taking it and then they're sending it to you, and it's a great resource. And the production time is so low. You're just shooting with your phone. There's no big lights and camera.
Right.
And I don't know about a quick win, but at the Virtual Museum of Canada, we're really interested in great stories. So if you've got great stories to share with obviously really great visuals to accompany them, and audio and video as well, the next call for proposals for the smaller investment program for the $10,000 investment opens on October 26th. So check out the community memories online. There's a template that we give you load your content into and design your content and your story that way. So it's a way to get your museum or zoo aquarium known more widely.
And I think this is a good question that sort of follows up. I mean, Megan mentioned earlier today that, you know, she does this off the side of her desk, or large portions of this off the side of her desk. And as I imagine do most people in this community. But when it comes to resourcing these kinds of things, and maybe Megan, you could just speak a little bit more, you know, if you're going out and you want to do a bigger project where the virtual museum, and sort of what we're talking about in terms of funding envelope as the scope of your program here.
So, well, the larger investments are $250,000. So we're looking at, you know, how good that fit is for the field now in 2016. If that's, you know, too ambitious for some folks and off-putting, but maybe the $10,000 investment is too small and they want to do something in the middle. So we're looking at the, you know, the possibility of opening up a middle category of investment. But currently we have the two pots that you can access, and, you know, we encourage people to work together. So develop a network of partners. It can be different cultural and heritage institutions, zoos and aquariums working together to put a proposal together and to pool their expertise and their resources and their collections. Also, community partners are really valuable contributors to projects that the VMC invests in, and it's a criteria that we look at when we're evaluating the proposals. Is the strength of that partnership speaks very much to your ability to deliver the project. So that's something that we really look for. And I think just in terms of, you know, resourcing, it's great if you make an ask to the Virtual Museum of Canada, but can also contribute some of your own resources, either as cash or in kind. They don't have to be cash resources. You can calculate staff time and partner staff time, that kind of thing, or the value of collections that you're contributing to the project. So I think there are ways to make it more manageable as a process. But, you know, if you're a small to, you know, medium-sized zoo or aquarium, and you don't feel you can embark on a big project either on your own or in partnership even with others, then certainly the $10,000 community stories, soon to be renamed, project is maybe where you'd want to start in thinking about submitting a proposal.
Yeah. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that we need to do a better job of engaging with each other online as organizations. And this is a way that the larger organizations can really help the smaller ones by, you know, simply sharing Facebook posts. Like one of the smaller, you know, facilities is doing something really cool in the conservation world. We should be getting that message out there on our bigger networks. We should be sharing those posts and talking about it, and, you know, commenting on each other's posts and engaging digitally with each other, because that conversation is viewed online as well by all of our visitors. And you can reach a much bigger audience and really have some great discussions. So it starts with us.
And I imagine if you like cute baby animals from the Toronto Zoo, you'll probably like cute baby animals from Vancouver Aquarium or the Yukon Wildlife Preserve.
Yeah, and it's just
so not fair. It's so not fair.
But it's about sharing those messages and talking about the great work that we're doing, because we need to do a better job of that. You know, we all kind of like run our organizations and we all know the awesome stuff that we're doing, but we need to do a better job of communicating about that online, getting that message out there, and, you know, giving, you know, shout outs to the other people that are doing great work.
Any closing comments from Megan or Ryan?
Don't be afraid to reach out if you have any questions, or I'm always available. You can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle's at the bottom of the screen, I believe. It's at WRDODGR, at WRDodger. Yeah, shoot me a message if you have any questions, or you're not sure about something, or you want to collaborate in some way. I'm always happy to help where I can.
And similarly for the Virtual Museum of Canada, I mean, we're here to help support Canadian museums, zoos, aquariums, and heritage organizations in sharing their stories and content online and engaging more visitors through those really powerful tools and platforms, and we're changing. So stay in conversation with us. Tell us what you need, what your challenges are, and your ideas, and we'll share with you some of what we're thinking, and you know, leverage the opportunity.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much to everybody for coming together and this digital. I feel like you know, we've managed to walk the talk today, and and really leverage the digital medium, and I really appreciate everybody joining us today, and our live audience as well. And I think with that, I'm going to hit the stop broadcast button.